Crystal ball it for me, Brandel. What do you think it's going to look like 1 year from now when we're getting ready to go to Pinehurst for the U.S. Open?
Well,
what do you think it's going to look like?
We could play it out. Let's say this deal goes through, which is highly problematic. It's going to have to pass 3 of the 5 players on the player policy board are going to have to agree with this. I don't see that happening, but if it does happen, then it's got to go through the FTC and the DOJ. I don't see that happening. But if it does, then it's got to go through the Democratic majority Senate. I don't see that happening. And if all that happens, it's got to get passed by the regulatory committees in the EU and Asia, and I don't see that happening. But let's just say that the deal goes through. If the deal goes through, I don't have any doubt that it will lead to the destruction of LIV. And PIF will then be in the room. And they'll have a for-profit entity of the PGA Tour, which will allow the PGA Tour to do some things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And that will be for-profit. And that part of the PGA Tour will be taxable. The other entity of the PGA Tour, the one that's based upon philanthropy and meritocracy, which is the competitive side of the PGA Tour, will carry on doing what it's doing. And the players that went to LIV will have to come back to the PGA Tour with Jay Monahan, or if he survives, Jay Monahan, as their boss on the profit side of the tour. I couldn't believe they're gloating. It's like, could they not look at the tea leaves and see what they had in front of them? And if the deal doesn't go through, then it at least ends the litigation. Okay, that's the hemorrhaging, the money hemorrhaging of the PGA Tour. And I think it would still end to the destruction of LIV. LIV will then go to team events in some far corners of the world that has zero traction, zero interest, will never make money. And I think it will still end to the destruction of LIV. And, Piff will be in the room. I think if you're MBS, I think, what did he want? He wanted to be a part and have access to the greatest properties, the ones with the highest reputation and investments around the world to help launder his reputation. So I wouldn't call that a win-win at all. I believe that the power brokers for the PGA Tour who brought this deal, I think their heart was in the right place. But that doesn't mean I think they did the right thing. But they were in a very tough spot, And that tough spot was because of Phil and Bryson and Brooks and DJ and a lot of them that defected for narcissistic greed.
Well, I mean, so what about the idea that the deal does go through? There are some LIV Tour events that are in the so-called dark weeks of the PGA Tour. There's some sort of infighting still between all of these players that they end up having to play against one another, and that they're paid off to the point where some of them are happy and some of them actually do play in these LIV events that are broadcast on national television, on broadcast partners of the PGA Tour. And Jay Monahan eventually gets bounced because the Saudis want it. I mean, why can't that be possible, Brandel?
Look, I don't see that happening.
Okay.
I just don't see that happening. There hasn't been galvanized support for the LIV product. Its ratings are atrocious. The team concept, I think, was so poorly thought out and so ill-conceived. For all of Yasser's investment savvy around the globe, and arguably he's the most important investor in the world, he doesn't know anything about golf. And evidence of that is the last person in the world you would want running a new professional golf league, in my view, and I think a lot of people's view, would be Greg Norman. He just doesn't have the political savvy and the persuasive power to have brought this deal off. So it's just the LIV product is an awful product in my view, and I think that's the view of most people because it just hasn't galvanized any support anywhere that it has been outside of Australia, which is somewhat understanding given the fact that Greg Norman's from Australia.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.